Call me successful.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a very, very special guest today. I've got the pleasure of having Samantha McLean from Elite Agent Magazine with us today. Samantha, welcome to Call Me Successful podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here at AKG Media.
No, it's been a long time coming because I've been on a field with you on the Elite Agent podcast, but I really wanted to have you on ours. There's so many topics I want to discuss today. But firstly, I want to get started with this question. How did you get into media? What made you think about media as a profession?
Yeah, that is a very good question. My background is corporate actually, and I used to work for tech companies mostly, British Telecom, Cisco, Optus, all that sort of thing. And I used to work on multi-million dollar deals. So I was like the person that they brought in as what you call a bid manager. And, I spent a lot of time doing that. Anyway, one day I got a challenge from someone that said, you're used to selling these multi-million dollar deals. I bet you can't sell a $9 rent card. And I'd never say no to a challenge, and it sounded interesting. And he got me at a very weak moment in my career. I'd just gone around the world in a week economy class working on a deal. I was tired. I had the flu, and I sort of thought maybe I better go have a look at these rent cards. And so that's how I got into the real estate industry.
Right.
But I didn't love selling rent cards. I need to make that very clear. I love the people, not the product. But that kind of led to other things. So when the internet got popular, I started writing articles for a magazine. And I found I really liked it. And the more articles I wrote, the more the publisher asked me to do for him. And every time we had coffee, I ended up doing more until I was the editor of that publication. So that was kind of how I got into media. And then, wanted to quit all my other jobs and just do that full time.
So you were writing about real estate or just anything in general in that magazine publication?
Yeah, at the time I was writing about productivity mostly, and it was a real estate publication. So, I was writing about productivity and property management a lot.
So when did this idea of Elite Agent come to you? Like, how did that actually evolve and become what it is today?
Yeah, it actually came to me while I was sitting in a pub drinking a beer at some Italian festival in Five Dock, watching a bus with a dentist ad called Elite Dentistry.
Right.
I know that sort of sounds quite odd, but I had been working for this other magazine for quite some time. It was my second job. Everyone, I think, knows that story by now. And it didn't really go the way that we all hoped because the internet came along and it was a print publication, no digital, and it kind of went south, leaving me without a job. And everyone kind of just said, why don't you just do your own thing? Why don't you do your own thing? But at the time I was a single mother. I already had a job. I was working for PwC again. And, and it wasn't sort of a simple thing to go and I'll just go and create a magazine at a time when another magazine has just failed. So it didn't seem like a great career prospect, but there was this one day I was sitting in the pub and I thought, I need to rebrand myself. What will I make it? And then seeing this dentist ad on the bus with the smiley faces, I thought they almost look like real estate agents. So
You're telling me real estate's like pulling teeth out as
No, but I think smiling is a big part of the
Smiling.
job. So, like there's some good teeth in the industry, definitely.
Yeah, I'm busy hiding mine as we talk.
Not at all.
So that gave you the idea, like, okay, we're gonna have Elite Agent Magazine, but it's very hard starting a media company, right? Because when you wanted a print magazine at that stage,
hmm
so you need to find advertisers, you need to find content. How did you convince people to advertise with your magazine?
Yeah, that's also a good question because, like there was a level of trust that had been burnt in the industry by my predecessor. But, I had run a bit of I knew a lot of people in the industry. I had been pulling together an email list for a long time before I actually rebranded the website. And, we just really, like at the time, if someone had have said to me, you're going to create your own magazine, it seemed like a mountain, to climb. But then I saw Ida Buttrose speak at Business Chicks event, and she quoted Og Mandino, and she said, like, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. And I think Og Mandino was famous for, I will take one step, and then I'll take one step, and then I'll take another step until I can take no more steps. So, that got me thinking, maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong. Maybe I'm thinking about the mountain as, and it was Mount Everest, basically. I started thinking about, well, what step do I need to take? What step do I need to take? And, I kept taking steps, kept talking to people. And then, when you keep showing up, other people tend to show up. And I guess, 415 days later, after I decided that we were going to have a magazine on September the 15th, 2014, that's when we actually had a magazine.
Yeah, wow. So what goes in it? So who do you launch with? Like, how do you come up with that idea? Because I imagine thinking about it, you want to sort of gain people's attention at a time. Who was the first cover of the magazine?
It was David Hyland, actually.
Oh, wow.
So from Highland Real Estate
Yes.
down south. So, another part of this story is that I was very broke at the time, and I didn't even want to go to ARIC because of the whole failure of the other magazine, and I didn't want to be answering questions and all of that sort of thing. And then the universe kind of conspired to get me there. And I ended up I didn't want to go. I ended up in the auditorium taking notes for John McGrath, because, fun fact for everyone, he wants people to see more value in the first couple of sessions that make the ticket worthwhile. And so, interestingly enough, like he always plants a couple of people in the audience to take notes. So I sort of thought, oh, well, free ticket, might as well go. And so I saw Chip Eichelberger that year, who I think was at ARIC last year, and he was sort of saying, yes, 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 we need to have a magazine. And yeah, like I actually sent a tweet out, because X, which is now Twitter, was the social media platform du jour. Like, Instagram wasn't popular back then. I feel like an old person now.
It's only like 10 years ago.
Right.
So much has happened since then.
Yeah. But as I sat there in the auditorium taking notes, I thought one of these speakers is going to be on my first cover, after I decided that we were going to have a magazine. And I just really, like, David Hyland got on stage, and I just really enjoyed his presentation. And he was talking about things in real estate that I think now are commonplace. So things like, he had a personal trainer, and he had these activity days, and he was one of the first, I think, offices to have a media company built into the office. And, it was all those things. And I thought, this guy's got quite a point of difference. And so that was how I decided. I sort of thought it would be someone that was at ARIC, and it had to be someone that, I thought was doing some really interesting, innovative things.
So how did you change the minds of agents to start reading it again? Like, I mean, not your magazine, but like magazine as such, and start trusting the media landscape? Because there's a few out there at the moment, but when you started, there's not many there. So how did that trust factor come back?
Yeah, I think from the very beginning, we needed a set of values, which we've always lived by, and they were elevate, educate, entertain. And we've always lived by those values, particularly the elevate one, which was how the Elevate podcast got its name. But I think a lot of media companies are quite unkind to real estate agents, and if it bleeds, it leads. I always joke to people that Sandra Sully gets on the 5 o'clock news and says good evening, and then tells you exactly why it's not. Like, so all the things that you hear about real estate and real estate agents from the mainstream media are always kind of over sensationalized, and the headlines are sometimes appalling. And I think it does impact, and I'd gotten to know quite a lot of real estate agents over the time. I think it impacts how everyone feels about their jobs, and you can see some people go, oh, I'm a real estate agent, like it's like, please forgive me. Or it's like, no, that's really, that's one of the hardest careers ever. And so I sort of made my mind up that if we were going to make money out of an industry, then we'd better leave it in a better place. And so that elevate mentality led us to making a few editorial decisions like, we're not going to amplify the bad stories because it really does affect, the real estate agents that you don't hear about. And so, we leave the sensational headlines to everyone else, but what goes in the brief of the morning, what goes in the magazine is there to make you feel good, is there to lift you up, is there to make you more productive. 'Cause that's where I started. I think we still end the brief every morning with wishing you a productive day. And yeah, that's I think that's how we won a place in a very definite segment of the real estate industry. There's still a very definite segment out there that love the sensational headline and then complain about it 20 seconds later. But, you know, that's an education process.
So what I've loved about it is it's sometimes it feels like, and I'm sure you agree, it's like you're actually breaking really big news, like rebrands, agents joining one brand to the other, agents starting their brands. Like you got a lot of carriage of that stuff as well. Like which are the big ones that you've broken, and like how do you feel about that? That you guys are out there, like telling everyone first.
Yeah, probably some of your stuff, Avi, but I remember when Gavin called me and said, I'm leaving Ray White Double Bay. So that was probably a big one. And I remember thinking, like I guess, there are some times and certainly times in the time that we've been in business that, I do worry about cluttering people's inboxes up. So I'm not the sort of person that does breaking news, breaking news, breaking news every time the RBA decides to have tea and biscuits. Um, but I suppose Gavin leaving Ray White Double Bay was probably the biggest move that we've seen
Yeah,
so far.
it certainly shook things up,
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly. It was a big move, and I think you guys covered it well. And then he had the full page with the whole team, and the glamour shots came out. Was it the first time with the glamour shots, like the studio shots? Was like I feel like everyone's followed suit since then. It's all studio shots.
Yeah. We found this very good photographer called Daniel Summer, and he's based in Redfern in Sydney. And we went to get our headshots done and just, really liked his vibe. And so he ended up doing quite a few covers for us. He did TRG, I'm just trying to think now, Dean Mackey from Di Jones. There were quite a few of them, but and every mugshot you see of me is pretty much Daniel's work. Yeah.
So from going to breaking big news, what's the favorite things that you've covered? Like what's been the highlight like so far? Because
Oh,
you've covered so much.
in 10 years, yeah, it's really interesting. And I mean, we did a bit of a retrospective, last year, because last year was 10 years. And you leave through issue 1 and my editor's note is all Ogmandino and Ida Buttrose. So it's like I look back at that and think, yeah, that's still really valid and not bad advice that I gave myself. But a lot of people come and go. Like, there's a lot of people that leave. And then, funnily enough, there's someone in like you'll see people moving offices a lot. Like, that they're here and then they end up there and then they end up there and then they end up there. And it's like, okay,
They're trying to find a home and it's not happening for them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's your favorite bit. And you see,
No, 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 no. I was on another podcast recently, so I'm going to stay consistent with, and I have interviewed we've had Sirhan on our podcast, we've had Jason Oppenheim, we've had the Altman brothers, we've had like a lot of high profile agents, but I will still say that my favorite story ever that we ever covered was Going to the Shed with Brian and Paul White. It was the first time I sort of got to do a bit of a documentary, actually, I think.
this was about 3 years ago. It's like
Yeah,
very
it
recent.
was before we moved to Queensland, and before the pandemic, I think so. I think must have been about 2019. But I just really loved talking to Brian and Paul. They're both such gentlemen, and being in the shed. And it was a very windy day that day. Like I'll never forget it. And because you can hear the the roof, the tin roof in the spiritual. There's something about being there
Yeah.
and walking around and seeing all the things and being in Alan. Like I got a tour through Alan White's house from
House.
Paul, who pointed out various things that and there's one of Brian's, or was it Brian or was it Paul? One quote I said, what would Ray say to an agent that has no leads? And he sat back and he thought about it for a moment and he said, he would say, put on your hat, go outside, walk up and down Queen Street and talk to people. And I think still, like despite all of the, all of the technology that we have and all of,
The media, the socials,
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
you've still got to put your hat on and
Yeah.
walk up and down Queen Street and talk to people.
It's funny, it's like no matter what we do, the fundamentals of real estate will never change.
Mm.
And in the Whites are very forthcoming in that. Make the calls, talk to people. That's how you get stock. That's how you get listings.
Yeah.
What have you not enjoyed in media landscape?
Oh.
You didn't think you're gonna get that question, did you? But there's bound to be things that you were like, oh, that someone could have done that better, or
Yeah. What have I not enjoyed? I think, like it's hard. What's really hard sometimes for me is to have friends, because there's a very definite line between, what is valuable for our audience and what is self-promotional. And so if I find sometimes that if I get close to people and call them friends, then it's almost like, okay, promote me for free or something like that. And it's been hard, like for me, because I'm a people pleaser. Don't hold that against me. I will try to, please everyone. And sometimes those decisions have not been good for business. So we've actually fixed that problem with AI lately. But yeah, that would be my one challenge. And the other challenge is, and can I be honest?
yeah, please. Please.
We're all being honest here. This is Vegas, isn't it? No, but the hard thing is writing a beautiful story about someone and then seeing them accept an award from REB.
No offense taken, Sam.
No, but it's that's hard because I sort of think they don't, I respect their place in the landscape and that sort of thing, but I just I don't think they're as values led as we are.
I think the thing that I like about your magazine is like you when you talk about the word elevate being part of your mantra, being part of your rise and your inception, you do actually elevate a lot of people because it's like they're doing well in their local marketplace, and all of a sudden you give them that the opportunity to have their story told to the whole industry, and you guys do it really well. So it could be hard seeing that happening, and then like someone else is sort of like, here's an award for it. I get that. But I think that you guys really do elevate agents a lot. There's a lot of stories there that, that you put out there that I read. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about that person. It's very personal as well.
Mm.
So that story behind that person it's very moving at times. So you guys do it really well. Now, coming on to this topic of elevating agents, it's the Elite Agent Conference that you started about 4 years ago. I remember being in the first one in the Gold Coast. It's a very different theme to it, right? It's like not your normal conference. What was the aim behind it? What are you trying to achieve with it?
Fixing real estate conferences. I don't, look, I've been to so many real estate conferences and, we work with, both agents and industry suppliers. In fact, that's our whole job, is to bring those two types of people together. And I've been in the expo hall and I've also been in the auditorium. And I just feel like the expo hall gets a bit of a bad deal because, they're always fighting for attention with, someone balancing a sandwich in one hand and pointing to that guy in the other hand and, trying to book a table at Moo Moo on Saturday night.
That is actually so true.
And so, some of the and a lot of them have a lot to offer that is not, it's not all advertising, but obviously they've got good businesses, some of them, and and what I wanted to create was an environment where everyone was equal and we all learnt from each other. And the other thing is, I really, there's a lot of people that, and for a while there, I was just seeing the same people on the speaker circuit. And what I was trying to do, I think, was bring know-how from outside the industry, because sometimes I think, we hear the success leaves clues and we hear the lessons, coming from one person and another. But what if it's not the right lesson and then it spreads and then everybody does the same thing and everyone sounds the same? And to a consumer, like we sold a house last year or the year before, and the listing presentations were all pretty much the same. There was no, like I was hearing the same scripts and dialogues, and and I was like, oh, please can we get, and this is me in my outside the industry sales career coming in. It's like, I think we need some different thinking, and I think we need some innovative thinking.
So there's a point of difference that and where is it this year?
We're not having one this year,
Oh,
actually,
taking a break
because
for a year.
yeah,
Yeah.
it actually clashes with Mark's and my 10-year wedding
Oh,
anniversary.
wow.
And we've sort of done 3 in a row. There's so many events now in the real estate
Yeah.
industry, so we are gonna sit this year out and do 2026.
Yeah, I think every month there's a conference at the moment,
I know.
which is very interesting.
I know.
I think I've been to 3 already, and it's April. So,
Yeah,
um,
I believe it.
yeah, so there's definitely a lot out there. Now, coming back to a question about print and digital,
Mhm.
you've taken away the print. Do you miss it?
Mm, I didn't for a while. I was like, "Gosh, this is great. This is like half the work that, we used to do." But now I do. Enough times passed that I do now. And weirdly enough, after sort of delving into the AI world so much, I think that I wouldn't say that we wouldn't have it make a comeback. There you go. That might be a scoop for you.
There we go. Print's coming back.
Because I think, like what people are seeing, like their inboxes are getting quite cluttered, as I
It's
said,
all noise, isn't it now? There's so much noise on the inboxes.
and disposable noise.
Mm.
So, like, whereas the print, everyone used to say to me the print was tangible, and, that they like to hold it in their hands and they were excited to get a copy in the mail and those sorts of things. So, enough time has passed now that I wouldn't say never, and it might be closer than never.
Yeah, wow.
So,
I remember when I first started real estate, that was about like 10 years ago. About right now, it's we sit around the lunch table and everyone's sort of fighting over the Elite Agent magazine, because you sent one to every office, and we're all trying to have a read. And that's how I grew up in real estate, reading the Elite Agent magazine, learning who the David Harlans were, who the Gavin Rubensteins were. So they have a place in a lot of us and how we've grown up in real estate.
oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing to hear. I mean, like, I think we started with one thing, one magazine, one person. So, it was like you have to be quite diverse, because there's a lot of agents who are either new, been around for 5 years, or have been around, for a very long time. And then you've got sales agents, property managers, and we've seen the rise of the buyer's agent, I think, over the last, 5 years, particularly thanks to people like Simon Cohen. And, you try to have a mix of things. Like I always used to say, it's like a good album, it's like tapestry, where there's some ballads and some bangers and some, so you've got to,
Yeah, it's a great mix in there.
yeah. And so, yeah, we got to a point where we would sort of go one thing for one person for, to make them 1% better. So,
You mentioned AI before. Now I'm going to talk to you about AI, because it seems to me that like you're leading the field in real estate. Before everyone was talking about it, you were sending out emails daily, right? So you're still sending out those emails. It's changed a little bit, but it's more about how to take actionable steps now rather than just prompts. So how did you understand that you needed to be the person leading that charge, and where is that going with you now? And it's become a focal point of the Lead Agent magazine now.
definitely, it's not going away. It's like the internet. I believe in AI. um, but why? Okay, so fundamentally, publishing is one of the first places that things get disrupted. So, that's an awful word, disruption. I'd rather call it innovation. But, you look at, realestate.com.au and Domain and those sorts of companies, like they were very much newspapers, got disrupted by digital, and then all of a sudden we've got online marketplaces. it's the same for us with technology. So, you know, print got disrupted with digital and email and newsletters and things like that, and then now AI. So I had been following the topic of AI for a little while because, my background is in tech companies and stuff. Now you know the backstory of that. And so I had one eye on this and one eye on that. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And that Christmas, I was writing some courses for New South Wales CPD. So I started playing with ChatGPT and answering it, asking it questions about things like underquoting and stuff like that, because that was what I was writing about. And it was answering those questions really, really well. And that led me to think, oh, so what else can I ask it? Can I, ask it to proofread an article for me? Can I ask it for a better headline? Can I ask it for all those sorts of things? And as it was doing better and better and better job, I was like, oh, 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 this is big. This is, where something big's about to happen. Because I still couldn't believe that I was using ChatGPT for free. So, like my first technology job was replacing the computers on desks at a chartered accountant's office at a cost of like $4,000 a computer, which in today's money is about $18,000. So, then all of a sudden, you don't have to be rich to have this sort of a tool. And and I was like, oh my God, and then obviously then my brain went to the real estate industry and I was thinking, this is going to really help write listing copy. This is going to help write ads. This is going to clean up social media. This is going to do a whole bunch of stuff. But really it was just only scratching the surface and still, um, I think it's still only scratching the surface of what it will be doing for us.
So do you think like agents are starting to utilize it more and more, or do you think they're still a bit wary of it?
I don't know. I think I was presenting at a conference last week and
This is your 12th one this year. Or-
yeah, no, I've been doing a lot of conferences, but I was presenting at one where there was only one, like I always ask, how much are you using ChatGPT from 1 to 10? And I let people use 7 because that's cop out. So a lot of people at that conference were saying 1 and 2, but they were from the regions. One person said 8, or 7.5 only because he wasn't allowed to say 7. But then, then you get a lot of people like, I've noticed that the most recent trend of turning yourself into an action figure. It's like, oh God, if I see another one of those in my Facebook feed.
The funniest thing is when people post it 6 days after the trend, like, like I've seen 200 already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like, okay, but hang on, why are you doing that when what you could be doing is, really leveling up your sales performance or really leveling up your marketing performance. But, after you've had a bit of fun with ChatGPT, then you might realize that it's not such a bad thing. And, you might get a bit more into AI. But, for the people that are AI curious, we're actually running some events, one in Brisbane, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne in early May. So, and they're free. So come
Yeah,
along.
wow, it's free. And I've been to one of them, so it's very thought provoking. I think you used, when I was at that one, I think it was Google, when they take your email and they start a radio program about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
No,
really cool.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's got even better now. Like, so you can actually, they've upgraded that. That's Google Notebook
Notebook,
LM.
LM, yes.
Yeah, so you can actually go into Google Notebook LM now and you can say, I am interested in learning about what it like. For example, I was feeling a bit tired the other day and someone said, have you read The Dip by Seth Godin? You're just experiencing the dip. And I thought, I need to go and find out what the dip is. And so I said to Google Notebook LM, can you tell me about the dip, particularly as it relates to a content creator or a publisher? And so what it does now is it goes out there and searches for all of your sources. And then it says, would you like to add all of these to your notebook? So you can just in one click import 16 sources
Yeah, wow.
and then go generate podcast. And then it takes all of those sources in. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, I was very knowledgeable about the dip.
Yeah, wow,
So,
that's amazing how much it can actually do.
yeah.
So I'm going to finish with a couple of fun questions.
Yeah.
What's one story you want to write about?
One story I want to write about. Oh,
That's a hard one,
that
eh?
is a tricky one. Avi Khan takes over Queensland.
You won't get a chance to write about that. Hey, but we're the number one agency in Queensland, so there you go. Self plug there. But you've done so much, you've seen so much, you've seen the highs, the lows of real estate. You've seen so many people move, so many people achieve so many things, and you've probably presented more confidence than any other real estate person or industry or media person. What do you think is the definition of success for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think success is one of those things that is not like a destination, I think. People used to go, "Oh, I'm successful," when they've reached a certain point or a certain GCI or a certain whatever. But, like I'm old enough to know now that things ebb and flow, and if they don't, then I think you're in trouble. It's either exit or do something else. But, now I think success is much more of you know, a state of mind, really. And I think it's having the wisdom to understand that there are going to be ups and dips, but it's about. I'm not going to say the journey, but I am going to say the journey. Yeah, it's more of a, understanding that the good times might be temporary and the times that are not so good will pass. Like that's the sort of, and I think that feeling or that vibe is probably more what I'd relate to success these days is actually sort of having the wisdom to understand that.
I think it's something similar to Tom Hanks said once: "Make time your best friend." If
Yeah.
you think you're in a high, just wait. If you think you're in a low, it's just gonna pass by. I can't remember. Reminds me of what he said and what your definition of success was. Sam, it's been a pleasure having you. Guys, if you're not getting the daily emails, go to Elite Agent and sign up. They're a hoot. There's so much breaking news. There's so many tips and tricks about AI and all the movements happening in the industry. I do suggest that you go sign up. But Sam, thank you so much for your time, and it's been my pleasure having you on it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you.